Hi, I'm Scott Mansell from Driver61, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to explain a little bit more about our pure pace programs and how they can help you be faster on track. So I actually designed these programs about 5 years ago after a long career of coaching at the circuit, sitting next to drivers on track. But what I actually wanted to do with this program is take a step back from that traditional coaching and really understand how to get the best progress from amateur racing drivers. And the way that we do that is not on a test day or a track day. We actually hire a circuit exclusively so that you have really high quality and valuable track time. The main philosophy of our driver training is to reduce the mental bandwidth, the mental load on the driver, so they can consciously think about their inputs and how they can work out how to be faster on track. What we're trying to do here is give drivers the toolkit so that they can figure out how to be fast themselves. So we use a circuit exclusively. We use a training car, which is actually quite slow, so you get lots of time to think about how the car is reacting on track, and we break down each technique into its simplest form. And we found that when we layer up these techniques one after each other, we really find that the learning from the driver is accelerated much more quickly. So our Pure Pace program takes place over a day, and it's split into 3 phases. First of all, we work on the fundamentals of driving. Then we move to get you to understand and feel the limit as quickly as possible. Once we've done that, we actually work on how you can take that limit and make the car behave in a way that increases the grip and cornering speed, therefore lowering your lap time. But first, let's just talk about the fundamentals. The fundamentals are absolutely crucial if you want a car that behaves as it should do when you're approaching the limit. If the fundamentals aren't right from the beginning, when you get close to a car sliding and reach that limit, it's going to do it in a way that is fundamentally unfriendly. And when you drive a car like that, typically drivers will go actually below the limit because the car surprises them when it slides. It's not a predictable car. So first of all, we make sure that the fundamentals are right. This includes vision, how you turn the car into the corner, how you feel the grip and the load in the car in your body, how you're conscious about that. We also check your brake trace and your throttle trace and that all your inputs are correct. We do this below the limit, and it's kind of like a checklist that we go off throughout the morning part of the day. We've had drivers come through the program who've never even been on track, all the way up to drivers who compete in British GT and the World Endurance Championship. And throughout all of these drivers, we've never had one driver who hasn't needed at least a little bit of tweaking on their fundamentals. Even some of the younger drivers that come through this program, they all need a little bit of work, whether that's on their vision or how they trail the brakes. And you can find actually during this phase of the day that you will unlock a lot of speed, because when you make a few tweaks here and there, it makes the car much easier and much more comfortable to drive on the limit. And when you get to that point, you are then willing to push the car even harder because you can predict how it's going to slide and how it's going to work on the track. Once we've got through the fundamentals and they're all working correctly, we then work on how to actually figure out how much grip the car's got as quickly as possible. I first thought about this problem when I was testing with a client of mine at Snetterton, and we were comparing our first session out on track. My client went out and went around at maybe 60% and then 65%, 70%, slowly crept up to the limit over probably 10 laps until he got to the limit, stepped over it, had a slide, it surprised him, and then he knocked 10% or 20% off and had to start the whole process almost from the beginning again. However, when I went out the pits, I was a little bit careful through turn 1. If you know Snetterton, it's a quick corner, so you don't want to take any risks there. But when I came round to turn 2, I had really understood how much grip the car's got. I got on the brakes a little bit early, but ramped up that braking pressure until we started to lock up the front tyres. There's one piece of information about how quickly the car will decelerate. Then we turn the car into that hairpin. We load the steering up until the car understeers. We push the car slightly wide through understeer. There we have another piece of information, how hard the car can turn. And then once we come out of the corner, we get the car in a straight line and gradually load up the car with the acceleration until we get a little bit of wheel spin at the rear. We've got 3 pieces of very useful information there just in one corner, whereas my other driver took 10 laps to get to that point. If you then figure that out around the rest of the circuit, somewhere like Snetterton, you have 50 or 60 pieces of information about how much grip the car's got just in one lap. So once you start to do that, all drivers will start to piece together and patch together how much grip a car's got, and then naturally get quicker around the whole circuit. Then it's a case of piecing these braking points and turning points and how much speed you carry into the corner all together so you can eventually get down to the fastest lap. So what we teach in our training programs is how to effectively go out on the track and proactively push the car just over the limit. Now, this isn't about being brave. It's about pushing the car just over the limit so you get the information about how much grip there is out on the track in those conditions in your particular car as quickly as possible, and doing it in a way that is safe and predictable. We don't want to be taking risks where we're kind of running off the circuit or spinning or anything like that. So we're doing this in a way that you can repeat over and over again and get that information from the circuit. And we see drivers, when they do this, they have a massive increase in their confidence levels. A lot of the time, drivers will be limited by what they expect the car can do, or the lack of what it can do, actually. So we have a lot of drivers who will bring the car into a corner and then just pause with their steering. And for example, they may be pulling 1.2G lateral load through the car, when actually the car's capable of quite a lot more. The problem here is in the driver's mind, what they expect the car can do. They have this false ceiling of how much lateral G the car can pull. And what we teach in our training program is not the absolute value of G load that you can take in our training cars. It's actually the journey that you need to take as a driver to push that and discover what's actually available, because this changes even if you're in the same car week in, week out, with circuit conditions, with the tyre wear, different things like this. So as a driver, you have to constantly be just tweaking the edge, pushing the limit, pushing it over slightly and coming back so that you understand where that edge is. And what we teach is that journey through, and the understanding becomes much more apparent then. And the final part of the day is about manipulating that limit. So it's all very well getting up to a limit. We may have understeer on the entry to the corner, or we may have oversteer, but actually the car can go significantly faster through a corner if it is well balanced. And we do this through a constant loop of assessing what's going on with the car. So where is the car understeering or oversteering? And then adjusting our technique as a driver to move the grip as we want it. So drivers will tend to sit on one of either two sides. Some drivers will actually brake a little bit too early, and they'll realise this during the braking phase before they eventually come off the brakes a little bit too early because they feel like they're going too slow. When they realise they're going a little bit too slow, they obviously jump off the brakes, the front of the car rises up and it gets understeer naturally because the front is unloaded. They then compound this problem by getting on the accelerator too early, which sits the rear of the car down and amplifies the understeer that they have. This is really common across many, many drivers. And of course, when you drive in this way, the dynamics of the car are all out of sync with the phases of the corner. And so while you are at a limit, the front's understeering, you're not at the absolute limit because you're not using all of the tyre's grip, especially those at the rear. So the front's sliding, but you've got excess grip at the rear. And so we need to figure out, how do you change your technique to shift that balance and get a better balanced car and overall a higher amount of grip. And that's where this assessment and adjustment comes in. And what we're trying to teach you here is not the absolute values of how to drive our training cars. It's how do you go through this journey of figuring this out, so then you can apply that to any car, circuit or condition. On the other hand, we have drivers who will often get oversteer on the entry to a corner. And this comes because they have in their mind that they need to brake as late as they possibly can, carry as much speed into the corner as they can. And they actually go too far with this. So they get on the brakes in a straight line, keep the brakes on really heavily and turn the car in. This means that the rear of the car is up in the air, doesn't have much grip. So when they turn the car into the corner, it feels really lively at the rear. So then in the driver's mind, they think, well, I can't possibly go into this corner any quicker because the rear is just going to spin out on me. Where actually, if they release the brakes a bit earlier, a bit more gently, they would transfer some grip to the rear of the car, and actually the car would be better balanced and have more grip overall. Therefore, they could go through the corner more quickly and lower their lap time. Now, that's all very well in theory, but when you're out on track, it's a much more difficult thing to do, because why would you want to release the brakes earlier when you already feel like you're going into a corner too quickly? And this is what we train in our programs. We take you through that process. That's the important thing. We don't just tell you to brake, turn, go faster. We get you to think through the problem, create a plan, and then go out and try to put this into action. And you can really understand how the balance of the car changes. And this is one part that me and the coaches really love, because we see the light bulb go off for the drivers. They really understand that, first of all, they're at the limit, but then that their inputs and how they drive the car really affects the balance, and they really start to get their head around this. And that's where you find the final 1 to 2% in terms of lap time and the ultimate pace. And that's about where we get up to in a day. We show you the process, we teach you the tools that you'll need to figure out how to be fast in your race car. It's all about going on that journey, moving through the limit, and then manipulating it once you get there. We spend about 4 hours in total on track. That's a lot of time with a coach next to you explaining things that you should be doing on circuit. We don't have much classroom time. It's all in the car, because I wanted drivers to take the biggest step forward that they possibly could through our training program. So we don't pad anything out with any classroom time. It's all in the car, getting out there, really experiencing it and feeling it on the track. We get lots of fantastic reviews from all of our clients, really, because they do take a big step forward in their driving. And it doesn't matter whether they've never been on track before or they are racing in British GT and they have been, for 10 or 15 years. They all take a good step forwards, because essentially the problems for the drivers are human problems, not an experience problem. We have, we're not designed to be hurtling around Alton Park in a metal box at 120 miles an hour. So we have to overcome these and work out these strategies and processes for really extracting the most speed from a car. So if you do want to check out some of those reviews, I'll link to it in the description below, and you can take a look at what other drivers have been saying about our training programs. So that's just a quick summary of what we do during the Pure Pace program. If you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch, and hopefully we'll see you on track soon. Cheers.